running back does tend to be the forgotten position, allowing for value at the position throughout the draft. In your article, you mentioned you think running backs will move up as we get closer. Any thoughts on what you think is the optimal way to attack running back this year? And has it changed much since the big board started? As you know, when I first started, I was getting Tajay Spears, Roshan Johnson, and Israel Abanikanda whenever I wanted them,
Yeah.
right? Those days are over. So I'm not finding as much value at running back late. What are your thoughts on how to play running back and wide receiver?
So early in, like the big board, maybe the first couple weeks or first month or two of Best Ball Mania 4, I think there's definitely a bias in the people that are currently drafting and setting these ADPs. These are a lot of these people that come from like RotoViz or Establish the Run, who are very wide receiver focused, and they're going to be punting running backs in particular. Then later on in August, you get other types of drafters coming in. They're more likely to draft some running backs. So I think that's
I call it tourist season.
yes. So those the running back prices I think are inevitably going to go up. More importantly, like you said, that with all those rookies, is there's so much uncertainty at the running back position. There's going to be a couple of guys that just like go into the perfect landing spot, and their price tags are going to go way up. There's some veteran running backs that have that are going to get cut, and they're going to get finding new homes, like Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, some of these types, these running backs in the draft. They're going to find landing spots, and their draft stock is going to go up. So I think it's going to be very clear to us which running backs those are right after the NFL draft. But for this year in particular, the big thing is all of the top 5, top 10 running backs for the last half decade, they're all now like 27, 28, 29 years old, the Derrick Henry types. And we're not drafting them where they once were, obviously, and for right reasons. But I do want to warn people that just because that they're going to go and not be as productive does not necessarily mean that the entire NFL wide, their rushing production is going to fall off of a cliff. We're just going to find people that have not done that production, that haven't had that production in the NFL before. They're just going to absorb a lot of that. We're just not going to see rushing yards dip by 25% just because Derrick Henry isn't the same Derrick Henry. Somebody else is going to come in there and absorb some of those rushing yards. And that's why I think that people zoom in a little bit or critique the what worked last year a little bit too much, because we can look at this like what happens over the last 10 years, not at like in round 8, round 9, but just how much rushing production is there going to be. And when we start doing projections for these players, it's going to go to somewhere. So I think that right now the best way to approach it is I'm going to be drafting more running backs in general, because I think the entire position is undervalued. And I think that can start in round 1, 2, 3. Or like you said, there's some players like the Alexander Madison types. I still think like Roshan Johnson and those types, some of these guys are going to be absolute massive wins. And if the wide receiver position is more expensive than ever, I don't want to be drafting as many wide receivers as we were 3 years ago. There's diminishing returns to that, especially if the price tags are going up a little bit.